This event features interpretation services in the 3 official ECOWAS languages. Tout d'abord, je voudrais annoncer que cet événement dispose de services d'interprétation dans les 3 langues officielles de la CEDEAO. Em primeiro lugar, gostaria de anunciar que este evento conta com serviços de interpretação nas 3 línguas oficiais da CEDEAO. My name is Joarel Barros, and I'm a communication officer at the ECOWAS Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency. And I have the pleasure to welcome you back to the 2nd day of the 5th edition of the ECOWAS Sustainable Energy Forum. Welcome. According to the agenda, today we will be discussing on 2 themes divided into 2 different sessions. The first one is green hydrogen, a potential game changer for economic growth in West Africa and the adoption of the ECOWAS Green Hydrogen Strategy Framework. And the second session will focus on technological and financial innovations for renewable energy and energy efficiency scale-up in the ECOWAS region. This forum is organized in a format to promote the exchange of ideas and cooperation to support the implementation of the ECOWAS region's sustainable energy targets. We will begin right away with the first session on hydrogen, but first I would like to introduce Dr. Mumbini Savadogo, the WASCAL Executive Director, Leader, Manager, and an Environment and Sustainable Development Scientist. He is also the Chair of the West African Technical Committee for the development of the Atlas of Green Hydrogen Potentials. Until his appointment as WASCAL Executive Director in 2018, Dr. Savadogo worked as the head of Burkina Faso's Office of the International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. He also worked for the National Institute of Environment and Agricultural Research, the Joint Sahelian Program of Ouagadougou University and the University of Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso, the Regional Coordinator of the WRLE Penjari Program, including Benin, Burkina Faso, and Niger, as well as a consultant for several international and national organizations.
Thank you so much.
He has an extensive knowledge of national and regional policies and strategies on energy, agriculture, ecosystem management, poverty reduction, sustainable development, climate change, as well as international agreements on environment. Dr. Savadogo possesses rich working experience with more than 25 years in several West African countries and very familiar with multicultural and multidisciplinary teamwork. He holds a PhD in animal science and sustainable land use by the Wageningen University in Netherlands. We are kindly asking all the speakers to open their video while they speak, and also to ensure that they mute the microphone before they speak. Dr. Mumini, you have the floor now for the next 75 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please.
Well, thank you very much, dear Joarel Barros. Thank you for the opportunity. I hope you can hear me very well, just to test the mic. Yeah. And yeah, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I would like first to thank you very much for the opportunity to moderate this important session. This session is about green hydrogen, a potential game changer for economic growth in West Africa, and will be also followed by the adoption of the ECOWAS Green Hydrogen Strategy Framework. It is my pleasure to really welcome all the participants on behalf of WASCAR and organizers. To go into the content of the session, we are having two important segments for this session. Hydrogen as a fuel for the future has gained global interest in recent years. And those who are following the international debates, the scientific research on renewable energies worldwide are well informed about the trend of this global interest in green hydrogen worldwide. So today, hydrogen is mostly produced, as you know, from fossil fuels. And this, of course, cause heavy carbon emissions. And we need to change the paradigm and make it decarbonized hydrogen production. This is a noble objective, but we are asking ourselves, is it a real potential for West Africa for green hydrogen to be considered as a potential game changer for economic growth? And to help us answer to some of these of our questions, and though some will follow, we are having a great panelists, speakers with us, very acquainted with the matter, with the subject. And I would like to announce that we'll be having Professor Rabani Adamu, who is the Deputy Vice Chancellor and Director of WASCAL Graduate School for Climate Change and Energy. This is one of the 12 graduate schools of WASCAL. And this graduate school is hosted by the University Abdou Moumouni of Niger. Prof, welcome to this session. We'll also have Dr. Rovecam Christophe, who is the head of division for energy and green hydrogen technologies at the German Federal Ministry. Yes, please.
Okay, just to say that I'm in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I was introducing Dr. Rovecam Christophe, head of division for energy and green hydrogen technologies at the German Federal Ministry of Education and Research. He's also associate professor at University Abdou Moumouni. Welcome, dear Christophe. We'll also have Dr. Solomon Agbo. He's a senior researcher scientist, energy expert, and coordinator of the Green Hydrogen Atlas for potentials in Africa, which will cover the technological, environmental, and socioeconomic feasibility assessment. He's also coordinating the same for Southern Africa. You are most welcome, Dr. Solomon Agbo. And of course, we'll have our dear Boubacar Ndiaye, who is the project manager at ECREEE and also focal point for the Green Hydrogen Initiative. So with a great panelist, I hope we'll be able to make sure that we understand together what is green hydrogen, how is it produced, how is it differ from other forms, how important is it for our region. And for us to kickstart and not waste much time, let's go to the substance. I would like to call on Professor Rabani Adamu to tell us what is it exactly when you talk about green hydrogen, what is it exactly, how is it produced, and what kind of capacity do we need to undertake such production. Professor Adamu, the floor is yours now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Savadogo. I'm really honored to be today with ECREEE and with all the partners. Related to green hydrogen, when you talk about hydrogen, it's a molecule which is normally not available naturally in our environment. But hydrogen is in many compounds, in many substances. Hydrogen is also a fuel which has a very high potential. For example, the calorific potential of hydrogen is 3 times important than the one of traditional oil that we use currently. So hydrogen is produced from many sources. As I said, for example, currently, hydrogen is produced by using oil, and this conducts to what we call gray or black hydrogen. When during the process, the CO2 produced is sequestrated, then we call it green hydrogen, blue hydrogen. The most important one is the green one, because at this moment we use renewable energy like solar, like wind, like other renewable energy to produce hydrogen through electrolysis. So when you use the electrolyzer, you just use water, and then you split the molecule of water to produce hydrogen, which is a fuel, which is a great energy carrier. And then we can use even the waste during this period of pandemic, of COVID pandemic, because the waste is oxygen. So this is what is green hydrogen. Green hydrogen has is very important for humanity because due to climate change, due to related global warming, humanity is obliged to have another source. So instead of using traditional energy source, it's very important to go, for example, for green hydrogen. So green hydrogen can allow decarbonization in many sectors, in sectors like industries, in sectors like transportation, in sectors where the decarbonization is very hard. When we take some countries, for example, which are pioneer like Germany in the context of using renewable energy, we know that, for example, now they use huge quantities of renewable energy in the electricity sector. But if they want to attack the industry sector just based on renewable energy, or if they want to attack the transportation sector just by using renewable energy, so they need additional potential, which are, for example, in Africa. Yeah, Africa has huge renewable energy potential, and Africa has a potential to produce green hydrogen. Dr. Solomon probably will come on this. A study were conducted on West Africa in ECOWAS countries, and we found huge potential of production of green hydrogen. When you take, for example, just at a country level, when you take a country like Niger, this green hydrogen potential can cover something like 300 times the energy needs, for example, of the industrialized country, which is Germany in 2030. So this shows that West Africa has the potential. Africa has the potential, and I want to say it, to be like the Middle East of green hydrogen. Currently for oil, Middle East is the pioneer. So if Africa develop a strong initiative, because the potential is here, Africa will be really for green hydrogen what the Middle East was for oil. So some challenges remains. These challenges are availability of water, because I said that we want just to use water to produce green hydrogen. So Africa, in a synergized way, can develop an initiative around water, can develop an initiative around renewable energy resources to produce green hydrogen, not only for our countries, but also for the global world. So this can allow our countries to have additional resources, and it will make Africa like a pioneer in the production, but also in the consumption, because when we develop some enterprise, some industries around green hydrogen, this will bring our countries to help our countries to improve the deployment of renewable energy. Because if you want to produce green hydrogen, you have to first to produce renewable energy. So I think this can be a strong step to develop the deployment of renewable energy in our countries. Moreover, Africa, if Africa is well organized, if ECOWAS take the initiative, I think that our countries will gain a lot. First, as I said, in renewable energy deployments. Second, our countries will be leader in green hydrogen production. So for this, what we want, we just want a strong will. We just need a strong backup from our leaders. The ministries are in this room. I think we have to be at the top of the movement of this initiative. Most of the times I said that in Africa, sometimes we take the train late. Currently, we have the possibilities to take the train at the same moment like the other part of the world. So it just needs a strong engagement from our authorities, adequate policy from our authorities, and a strong capacity building. And here, WASCAL, with the support of BMBF, the German Ministry of Foreign, the German Ministry of Education and Research, are developing a capacity building here in ECOWAS countries. Currently, we are hosting at Abu Mumuni University 60 students from each ECOWAS countries to support, to train them on thematics related to green hydrogen. So we have 4 programs yet launched in the ECOWAS countries, one from Niger dealing with photovoltaic and green hydrogen, one at Cote d'Ivoire dealing with geo-resources, that's mean all around wind, waters, and green hydrogen products, one in Togo dealing with bio energy and green hydrogen, and a global one in Senegal, which deal with the economics of green hydrogen. So I think we really begin very good. So we need the support of our leaders to develop this initiative in Africa. For our side, we develop capacity, so we wait now for the strong engagement of our ladies to back up us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Prof, for introducing us into that matter so strongly. And of course, you mentioned earlier the result of studies led by Dr. Solomon Agbo. Very soon we'll hear from him. Let me remind all the participants, distinguished participants, that we have under the Q&A box, you have the opportunity to drop there your questions, and we'll manage for the panelists to answer them, and right away or later on we'll respond to all of them. So I would also entreat our dear panelists also just stick on the time, because we have a very limited time. So please, within the 8 minutes, then maximum 10 minutes, so that we can have time for interaction at the end. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Solomon Agbo. Please take the floor and explain to us, can green hydrogen be produced abundantly in the ECOWAS region?
Thank you very much, Dr. Savadogo, for the opportunity. And I also would like to thank the organizers of this very important event for giving me, and of course my co-panelists, the opportunity to be here. So I really would take it from where Professor Rabani stopped. I think it is really very clear in that the issue for us in Africa is not if we have the potentials. I think that the big issue for us in Africa is how we exploit the potentials that we have in terms of renewable energy. And I will make bold to say that green hydrogen provides one very big opportunity for us as a region of Africa as a whole to be able to explore and exploit the huge potential we have in terms of renewable energy that up till now has not been, very well exploited. So there was a study that was done in 2017 by the African Development Bank, where it showed that Africa has up to 8,500 gigawatts potential electricity generation from solar, from wind, from hydropower, from geothermal resources. And the issue remains that these resources have not been largely tapped. So we started out in the H2 Atlas Africa project, thanks to the support from the German Federal Ministry of Education and Research that supported and kickstarted this initiative in partnership with WASCAL. We started out to really look at the potentials that exist in West and Southern Africa and how these potentials in terms of renewable energy can be utilized to generate green hydrogen in the region. Now, like Professor Ramani said, our focus here is green hydrogen. So green hydrogen that you generate just using renewable energy by a process that is called electrolysis. So you use direct energy from renewable energy, you break down water, you get hydrogen and oxygen. So to do this, so this basically means that you need renewable energy. Then on the other hand, you need water. But then beyond that, there are a few other things that you would also need, technically speaking, to be able to generate green hydrogen. So what we set out in the project to do is to do a complete survey, look at the region, do an assessment, do a mapping of the renewable energy potential that exists in the region, do a mapping, carry out an assessment of the water resources that are available that you would need if you have to be able to generate green hydrogen. And then beyond that, also we carried out of what we call the land eligibility assessment. So if you have to generate energy from wind or from PV, you would need land because you have to place your infrastructure on land to be able to generate green hydrogen. So we did all of this technical assessment, but also looking at related issues like the socioeconomic effects, looking at also the climate change impact, making a projection into the future to be able to basically quantify. So the idea was to determine in terms of numbers, what's the potential that's available in the region, how much green hydrogen can we generate, and what does this translate in terms of number? Is this competitive? So if you look at what we can generate from West Africa compared to what you have the possibility or what is being generated in other parts of the world, is there a competitive advantage that we have? I will give you a few of these in terms of numbers. So first, I will just talk about the renewable energy. We found out from our research, from the work that we have done together, that you can generate from West Africa, for example, you can generate energy from PV at a cost of about 2 euro cents per kilowatt hour. So 2 euro cents per kilowatt hour. When you compare this number with the cost of PV from so many other parts of the world, this is very competitive. So it places the region really at a very competitive advantage. Now, this is on one part. Then if you look at the other resources that are also relevant to generate green hydrogen. So I go again, for example, if you look at land, you have to place, so for you to be able to generate electricity from PV, from wind, like I said earlier, you would need to place your infrastructure on land. So when you look at the land area that's available in West Africa, in Africa as a whole, for example, it's huge, it's enormous. Probably you are aware that if you look at the whole land area of Africa, it will fit the whole of the US, the whole of Western Europe, the whole of China, the whole of India will fit together within the land area of Africa. So we are talking about over 30 million square kilometer. So this is huge resources. And we carried out a mapping of this land area in West Africa. And we found out, for example, that you have almost 70% of the land area you have in West Africa are still eligible and can be utilized to harness energy from PV, for example. So these are huge resources that are technically available within the region that can be utilized to generate green hydrogen. And of course, it will go without being mentioned that we also have huge water resources that are available. Of course, you have several you have rivers, you also have lakes, but we had to do a mapping, for example, for groundwater, because for you to generate hydrogen, you will need a fresh water, and one source of fresh water is groundwater. So we did a mapping, and then we found out also that there are, of course, locations where you have a possibility to generate groundwater, but there are, of course, regions, there are locations within the West African region where this is a big constraint. But beyond that, we also had found out that there is a solution to this. So we are not constrained just by the availability of groundwater. We can also explore a technology that is called desalination. So where you have to pass salt water through a process to make it fresh so that you can utilize it. And we have also determined that there are several options that exist for the region if this technology, if we have to go this way. So just to wrap it up, I would like to mention that in terms of cost, we have determined that the cost of producing green hydrogen in West Africa is quite competitive and attractive. In terms of numbers, you are looking at possibilities within the range of €2 per kilogram of hydrogen. Of course, this we are very hopeful will go down. So this price will go further down because this will be driven by the downward trend you find in the cost of PV, and of course further developments in the cost of electrolyzers. So this is quite competitive. And then the second point that's also important to highlight here is that we have found that in terms of the quantity of green hydrogen that can be generated in West Africa is so enormous, actually difficult to quantify in terms of numbers. So you're looking at about 116,000 terawatt hour of hydrogen. So putting this in terms of electric values, but maybe just make it a little bit so that you will understand. Professor Rabani already mentioned how this relates to in terms of numbers. So Germany is a very industrialized country. Germany by 2030 would need about 110 terawatt hour. And then we are talking about a capacity of 160,000 terawatt hour. So this is much more than the whole of the continent will require 1,000 times much more by 2050, 2040. So this is a huge, huge, huge potential in terms of number. Now, I would really like to end this by saying that just to add to what Professor Rabani already mentioned, extremely very important for us as a region, for us as a people, is that we be part of the movement. There is a big movement. We should definitely not be left out. Everything that has to be done has to be done, whether it's policy, whether it's legal framework, whether it's political support, everything that we need to do as a people, as a region, we have to do. We really cannot miss this opportunity to turn around the energy situation in Africa and be part of the international energy markets for the future. This is just the way to go, and we have to be part of it. Thank you very much, and back to you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Agbo, for, of course, hearing you is so exciting. And one thing that is more important to note is that what is done is science-driven process. And this is very important, that the process that is undertaken to look at the potential of green hydrogen as game changer for economic growth in Africa be a science-driven process. And that's what we are seeing. Scientists are telling us we have a huge potential, but now let's look at also the other component. And what you said, we realize that we have the technological, environmental, socio-economic, and policy aspects that need to be harnessed together in the way that it can be sustainable production. So I would like now to hear from Dr. Christophe Rovkamp on the perspective for international cooperation. Dr. Agbo mentioned it a bit, but we need to hear more from you. What are the opportunities and maybe the challenges we are having in terms of international cooperation in green hydrogen production and economic development? The floor is yours, Dr. Christophe Rovkamp.
Yeah. First of all, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be here today with you. And thanks for the invitation to this really important forum and this important session. And let me give a big thank to ECREEE for organizing all this, and also thanks to Executive Director Dr. Savadogo for moderating and chairing this session. I think it is a clear message from my side for you that this is really the right time that we meet today, because we are witnessing all that a global hydrogen economy is arising. And the main question is, what is the role of West Africa in this global hydrogen economy, and what could be the impacts for West Africa? So I would like to stress 2 points in my statement. The first is, what are the global trends that we can observe? And the second aspect is, are there any lessons learned already, or how can we proceed regarding a green hydrogen strategy for ECOWAS? So the first that we can observe, there are some really interesting facts and developments about the green hydrogen global economy. The consultant from McKinsey conducted a study called Hydrogen Insights. And this is really an important study because we get a deeper understanding about the investments and deployments of hydrogen activities. And the main findings of this study underline the tremendous momentum of hydrogen. Just to give you an impression what we are talking about. Currently, we see that more than 30 countries already have launched hydrogen strategies or hydrogen roadmaps. There are already announced about 230 large-scale hydrogen projects along the value chain. And the last number, 85% of these initiatives are located in Europe, Asia, and Australia. And regarding the numbers in terms of investments, if all these projects come to fruition, the total investments will reach about $300 billion in spending through 2030. So these are really impressive high numbers, and already $80 billion are considered to be major. Means these projects are in the planning stage or past the final investment decision or under construction, or they are already commissioned or operational. And it is important that we also can observe a high support of governments, and a number of $70 billion in public funding are going into different green hydrogen projects. So this is, I think, setting the scene as well for West Africa. We also need to have a look what is happening in Europe. And we see that the European Union made hydrogen as a key plank in its aim to eliminate greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. And the European Union plans to install about 40 gigawatts electrolyzers capacity till 2030. And yesterday, the European Alliance for Clean Hydrogen published a list with about 750 projects across Europe to drive the European hydrogen economy, and the range is from production to use in different sectors. And this is the situation that we observe in the European Union. So what about Middle East and Africa? This is very important because it is the question, how can West Africa position itself in this field or in this race of hydrogen? And we observe regarding or in the study, or according to the study from McKinsey, that we have about 8 projects in Middle East and in Africa. North Africa is a very active region, but also South Africa and Namibia. And for example, North Africa has the idea to build a bridge from Northern Africa to Europe, means that hydrogen can be exported from North Africa via pipeline. And this is also important to see or to know what is happening around the ECOWAS countries, because this is what we observed so far. We do not find any hydrogen strategies in West African countries. So this is really important regarding the further discussions that, and this is also the idea, that today is an initial point for starting or developing hydrogen strategy for the ECOWAS countries. The situation in Germany is in 2020, we already launched a hydrogen strategy, and this is important for West Africa. We will invest in the next years about 2 billion euros in international hydrogen corporations, and we have already started our activities with West Africa, because we see regarding the Green Hydrogen Atlas that there is really a huge potential. Dr. Akpo mentioned this. So let me give you 2 examples. We are also active in countries like Namibia, but also in Australia. So you see the world, we can observe a kind of race between different regions and countries. And as I mentioned before, West Africa now has the opportunity or the chance to be part of this bigger movement. And this brings me to the second point. So what is, for example, of highest importance when we are talking about a strategy? First of all, the political support is really something that is necessary, because this sets the frame for investments. If you see that the 30 countries that already have launched a strategy represent about 73% of the world's gross domestic product. So you see it is really part of investment and also of growth in terms of the gross domestic product. And the data from the Green Hydrogen Atlas show that the region can benefit economically, socially, and ecologically. So the time is now right to make use of this, and it's also time to act. And regarding the strategy, I think it is most important that we formulate a kind of vision and also clear goals for the region, as well as concrete measures. This is one of the lessons learned in Germany, that we need concrete measures for implementation. For example, is there any kind of action plan that could be included in a hydrogen strategy? And a further conclusion for ECOWAS could also be, how do we narrow down the regional strategy into country-specific hydrogen strategies? This is also one important aspect I would like to mention. And to get things started, we need to find critical or crucial unlocks in the entire region in terms of how can we reduce the cost of hydrogen production, how do we organize the distribution and transmission, and what are maybe end applications that are of interest for the use of hydrogen. I think it is important that we should link the strength of the respective countries. I think this is very important. And we have also already, regarding the infrastructures, the West African power pool, and therefore the strategy also can set new impulses in terms of higher trading volume and also the development of infrastructures for transmission and distribution. So we need this kind of collaboration between the different countries. When we are talking about the use of hydrogen, it is of interest that in the atlas we find so-called sweet spots. So maybe it is a nice idea to link the various port areas like Dakar, Lomé, Cotonou, Abidjan, and Tema as possible off-takers of hydrogen, so that we see that there is a critical mass. And it is also necessary that we think about smart transition, because some of the countries in West Africa are relying on oil and coal and gas. And I think it is important to find smart policies for a transition phase, especially for these countries. As Dr. and Professor Adamou mentioned, we already started the capacity building with a green hydrogen master program in the entire region. And one aspect I would like to mention is that it is always the same. Seeing is believing, and especially regarding a technology like green hydrogen. That's why I would like to underline that we are really willing to start showcase projects in the region with you together. And the main question would be, how do we create business cases and models with impact on the ground? And therefore, we are willing to invest in research and development projects with you, with ECOWAS, so that we can proceed. And we are really convinced that strong international corporations can set up a global green hydrogen economy successfully, which in turn brings prosperity and welfare at the local and regional level as well. Thank you so much for your attention.
Okay, thank you so much too, Dr. Rovkam. Thank you for the insight with regard to international cooperation, and also key questions you raised there is important. I think yesterday during the two sessions, it has been emphasized the importance of having a regional approach. How do we harness our potentials to make sure that we have sustainable production in West Africa? So you also come back to this, and I think it is well noted, and we need as a region to tie up our hands together and make sure that we tap into this great momentum that is right now ongoing. We are having some questions coming from the floor, but let me take our last speaker, and then we'll come into this and try to answer to some of these questions. Of course, most of the questions that have been raised by the previous speakers are geared towards ECOWAS. We are talking about regional strategy. We are talking about having a very concrete action plans at regional, national levels, how ECOWAS, particularly through ECREEE, is looking at this. So let's hear from Baboucarr Ndiaye. Baboucarr, what's the perspective of ECREEE on these very, very, very important questions raised up to now? The floor is yours, Baboucarr.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mr. Moderator and participants, ladies and gentlemen. My intervention would be around 5 different areas. One is the ECREEE as an institution, then ECREEE's regional policies, cooperation with WASCAL, roadmap for implementation of the ECOWAS green hydrogen policy, as well as our strategic framework. ECREEE, the ECOWAS Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, is the ECOWAS institution designated to promote sustainable energy development in the region. In so doing, ECREEE over the years came up with a lot of policies. To name but a few includes the ECOWAS Renewable Energy Policy, ECOWAS Energy Efficiency Policy, ECOWAS Policy on Gender Mainstreaming in Energy Access, as well as the ECOWAS Bioenergy Policy. So with some of these policies worked on and adopted by our member states, it goes to show that ECREEE has been tried and tested in developing regional policies, particularly in the renewable energy and energy efficiency domain. So because of that, we are a well-positioned institution to work on the ECOWAS green hydrogen policy. Then furthermore, in November of 2020, ECREEE signed a memorandum of understanding with WASCAL, which is the West African Science Service Center for Climate and Adapted Land Use, to promote green hydrogen. And part of the MOU that we signed, or the memorandum of understanding that we signed, ECREEE served as a member of WASCAL's technical committee for the development of the Green Hydrogen Atlas. And with that, we were able to provide tremendous contributions, which led to the successful development of the Green Hydrogen Atlas. Furthermore, ECREEE has existing programs within renewable energy, energy efficiency, and cross-cutting thematic areas. So we developed an ECOWAS Green Hydrogen program to be one of our programs of implementation. So there has been a lot of support from our executive director down to all the program officers. And everyone is very much interested to see to the development of the green hydrogen policy. And we want to ensure that in the not so distant future, we will be happy and honored to see that our green hydrogen program is the flagship program at ECREEE. Additionally, we have been engaging in stakeholder consultation. We have been to member states. We held discussions with directors of energy, directors of renewable energy agencies, and of course, ministers, sensitizing and then telling them about green hydrogen, what it is all about, why the need to have green hydrogen in the region, and to include green hydrogen in our renewable energy mix. And we are honored to report back that during our stakeholder engagements, if not all the member states that we have engaged have expressed their resounding delight to partner with ECREEE on this green hydrogen development. So then, furthermore, in addition to our in-country sensitizations, we also held virtual meetings wherein we invited our national focal institutions to talk about green hydrogen. And then the level of participation and enthusiasm expressed by the member states was very, very impressive. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to promote green hydrogen, we thought that it is necessary to prepare a roadmap for the development and implementation of a green hydrogen policy and strategic framework. In partnership with WASCAL, we held a session sometime in August and then articulated on the development of an ECOWAS green hydrogen policy. We started by developing a terms of reference for the recruitment of a consultant who will help us to develop the ECOWAS green hydrogen policy. And I'm happy to report that the terms of reference had been finalized and it has been launched on our website. and on the websites of sister or partner organizations for the recruitment of a consultant. So right after the recruitment of the consultant, we hope to have a kickoff meeting or an inception meeting with the consultant, wherein all the requirements for the work would have to be discussed. Right after the kickoff meeting, we would want to have a validation meeting of the initial consultant's report. Mind you, during the kickoff meeting with the consultant, we'll also invite member states participants so that we carry them along. And in that note, it is going to be works and tasks that would have to be endorsed by the member states. Upon the submission of a draft report by the consultant on the green hydrogen policy and strategic framework, we will also call the member states. We will have them on board to also comment on the draft policy and implementation strategy. Again, after member states' contributions on the draft policy and implementation strategy, we will gather them again through the Council of Ministers and present the document to them for their endorsement. Once the document is endorsed by the ECOWAS Council of Ministers, we will further present the document through the ECOWAS Commission responsible for energy to present the document to the heads of states for approval. So all these tasks and activities we hope to achieve by December 2022. Now, aside from the roadmap for the development of the ECOWAS Green Hydrogen Policy and Implementation Strategy, we also thought it necessary to share the strategy framework with our partners as well as member states. As of now, we have sent out a draft outline of the strategy framework in English and in French to all our national focal institutions and partners for review and possible adoption. On the strategy implementation framework, you will see 5 key components. Component 1 is resource assessment, mapping, and planning. Now, this component, I think we have achieved, or we have already done by way of the Green Hydrogen Atlas. Component 2 is policy and strategy development. And this is the component that I said we have launched a tender to recruit a consultant who is going to develop it. And we are going to be working with our partners and all member states from the beginning to the tail end to see that there is wide participation. Upon the development of the policy and strategic framework, there will be information and knowledge sharing. Again, there will be a lot of sensitization, a lot of knowledge exchange. Furthermore, there will be capacity building and technology transfer. And finally, financing mechanisms and resource mobilization. Thank you very much. We are very passionate for the development of the ECOWAS Green Hydrogen Policy and Implementation Strategy. And I hope that the partners and the donors will continue their support. And as for the member states, we are in it together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Boubacar. Of course, we could see and feel the passion you are having. And I believe that this passion is also communicated to all of us here on this platform. And thank you very much for, of course, presenting the perspective of ECREEE on how we can tackle and organize ourselves to be able to make sure that we don't stay at the stage of just observing the potentials, but we move forward with very concrete actions through the strategy, the policy, and action plans at regional and national levels. So thank you very much. So we have been, of course, sharing a lot of information with our audience, and we are receiving some questions coming from them. And I would like us maybe to try to respond to some of them. I would like to start with one important one coming from Mr. Bavogi. With climate change effect right now, how do we tackle the issue of the depletion of water resources, considering that, of course, production of hydrogen, green hydrogen is fundamentally based on water? So maybe I would ask Dr. Solomon if you would like to respond briefly to that, and it can be complemented by any other panelists on the stage.
Okay,
Solomon?
Thank you very much, Chair. So just in response to that question, yeah, we had also thought about this within the project team, and we did two things to take that into consideration. So we looked at what we call groundwater rechargeability. So we did a mapping and tried to look at historically over the last 30 years, how the groundwater rechargeability or the groundwater yield across West Africa has evolved. And then we use that historical data to make a projection into the next 50, 100 years to also see how, if we have to use groundwater for hydrogen production, how that will also evolve. Of course, in doing this, we took into consideration all other water uses. So for agriculture, for home, and all the other water uses. And like I said, we found out that for some countries, this would be really very critical. So this would be very critical and will not be sustainable if you have to depend on groundwater for a long-term green hydrogen production. And that's why we looked at other water resources that can be utilized, also taking into account the issue of climate change, but also the issue of other water uses in addition to the cost implication. And then we have found out, for example, if you have to use seawater that you would desalinate, if you have to desalinate seawater, you would not have any problem. We have water bodies around where we can get seawater from. And then, so this would have very minimal cost implication in terms of the overall cost of green hydrogen production. And then another thing we have also found out is that it will be very important for a cross-border cooperation, so between the ECOWAS countries. The reason is that you have some countries that are landlocked that really have water constraint, but then they have a lot of potential in terms of available renewable energy. So for such locations, if you have to produce hydrogen, one option would be to transfer electricity generated from there to countries that are closer to the coast where you can get seawater and then do your desalination. So I think that the process can be sustainable with really very minimal impact in terms of climate change. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I believe that, yes, aside for what you said already, I think one thing we need to do is also to continue to invest in land restoration. It's very key. We invest in land restoration and water bodies and riverbanks protections, so that we make sure that we also preserve at the best our water resources. Thank you very much. One question coming, the last one before I come back to ECREEE. Is a question we are having here from Professor Nicola Barrow. Yeah, what are experiences and difficulties of pioneer countries on this type of energy? Do we know what the pioneers are encountering as difficulties in green hydrogen production. Maybe I leave that open. Can I call on Professor Rabani to start? Just 1 minute, please. We want to go to the following segment. Yeah.
Thank you. So the difficulties, for example, for the pioneers like European countries, one is the availability of energy resources. The huge quantities of hydrogen are produced from fossil fuels. That means with production of CO2, which will contribute in global warming. So the challenge they have is to
yes, please.
Sorry. So I said that currently green hydrogen in the world is producing by using fossil fuel. That means additional production of CO2. In the developing countries also, they have a limitation of resources, renewable energy resources. When you take, for example, some European countries, even if they want to go in direction of renewable energy, so there is a limitation of the resources. So the resources limited. Okay. The other thing is water. We said that we need water. For example, the theoretical value is 9 kilograms of water to produce 1 kilogram of green hydrogen. But in practically, to make working the engine, to cooling the process, so you go to something like 22 to 32 kilograms of water to produce 1 kilogram of hydrogen. For the technological aspect also, we have some challenges because we said that it's a new process. Electrolysis is simple, but humanities are in developing more and more suitable technologies. So this is some challenges that we have on the technology of green hydrogen.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much. Also, for the sake of the time, we do have some other questions that I believe we'll answer them, and then through the chat and so on. Now we are going into another aspect, very important one, because we have the national focal institutions of ECREEE also online, and I will now hand over to Babuka to lead this particular segment on the strategy of ECOWAS on green hydrogen. Babuka.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Going through the agenda, initially, we wanted to opt in a participant from the Gambia to give the country perspectives on the potential green hydrogen policy and the implementation strategy. But we just did a small refining of that element to now open up to all member states. So now the floor is open up to member states. If anyone wants to add, this time around, it's not questions per se, but comment or further provide insights into our policy and then implementation strategy framework, as well as prospective action plans. You are open. It is open to all of you. The floor is open, so anyone who wants to contribute can raise his or her hand. Thank you very much. Again, remember, we are on it together. So this is an opportunity for all of you to contribute. Thank you.
Hello, Babuka, maybe you would want to call on some of them. If you have the list, yeah, please.
Okay. Can I hear something from Senegal? No response, Mali?
Yeah. Hello, Babuka.
Yes, Edie.
Okay, let me first of all thank the moderator and all the wonderful speakers, for enlightening us on this very important, topical issue. So I just wanted to add that in the absence of the member states coming in, since we have some questions in the chat box, I think it would be important for them, to throw it out to the moderators to clear some of the questions they have. So I would like to, of course, recognize Dr. Mumine, Professor Rabani, Dr. Solomon Agbo, and Dr. Zenkamp. Thank you all very much. So I would suggest that we use the chat box, so that the panelists can be able to provide some answers to the questions raised. Thank you.
Thank you, Executive Director of ECREEE. We are, of course, we appreciate your leadership. And we have one question here. Aside from this forum, what is ECREEE doing to further leverage on educating governments of federating countries on the need to go in this direction? This question is coming from Okezue. So let me hear from Babuka what ECREEE is planning or will be doing to further leverage on educating governments. Maybe the executive director also may want to come in there.
Okay, I can allow my executive director to talk if he wants to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, hello, executive director.
Sorry, there was some noise in the background.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes, indeed. I think that it's a very, very important question, and basically, what Babuka has indicated, as per the strategic framework we have drafted, is to ensure, greater awareness creation and information dissemination and awareness creation, knowledge sharing. As you may know, or those of you who may not know, we already have a platform on information sharing called the ECOWAS. That one we share, our information, we share our data, and so forth. So, but then we have started the sensitization with some senior government officials, in some of these countries. But then we'll also want to use the occasion, especially when we have the development of the green hydrogen policy that we have embarked upon jointly with Wascal and with the support of BMBF. So, but in addition, when we have other forum, like for example, this one, we also want to bring out green hydrogen, the potential, and how green hydrogen can be able to be a vehicle to be able to attain our sustainable development goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive
Babuka,
Director.
if he has anything to add,
yeah. Yes, Babuka. 1 minute, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Just like what my executive director had stated, what we have been doing is that any fora that we are opportune to attend, we always ensure that we have a slot to talk about green hydrogen. A case in point, a colleague of mine and I went to Sierra Leone on an unrelated matter. But when we met some of the officials in the country, that gave us the opportunity to remind them about green hydrogen and then the policy direction that ECREEE is heading towards. So that is there already, in addition to our ongoing sensitizations. And in some of the sensitizations, the ED, my ED and I met even ministers to discuss with them about ECREEE's green hydrogen program, as well as the strategy and the policy development. So we are on track. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We have another question here, which is related to capacity building, because this is a kind of novel technology. Do we have enough capacity in the region in terms of vocational or trained people, but also at academic level that can really undertake the development of this technology in West Africa? This is very, very important question. Can I have here the thought of Dr. Agbo on the perspectives in terms of capacity building?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I think that Professor Rabani already highlighted in his speech what we are currently doing with the support of the BMBF. I think that's this is very key, and I am personally really happy that we started also to think in this direction from the very beginning of the projects. The technology is in itself, generally speaking, new to the region, and I think that it's important that we also start from the very beginning to build local capacity in terms of raising young people that are able to also provide drive the market for the region. So this is what the graduate school that we are currently running, it's basically intended to do. But beyond the graduate school, I think that we will still have possibilities. It will still be nice that at different country level, but also within on a regional level, that we put more effort to train also local expertise, whether they are technologists, whether they are technicians. Through the entire value chain, you would need really people locally that will be able to sustain the technology or to drive the technology locally.
Okay. Thank you so much. I believe that at ECREEE level also some initiatives are planned, and capacity building, of course, is part of the global strategy that is developed. Mrs. Sawa?
Yes, indeed, you are very right. In fact, within the same strategy framework, we also have capacity building and knowledge sharing as one of the key components in the strategy framework. Because yes, we are very much aware about the academic program that is ongoing, but then at technical and professional level, we also believe that we need to enhance the capacities, especially of the technicians, as we are doing with the solar PV installers, so that we can be able to have technicians on the ground, who will be able to also deliver, in addition to those who are already, doing the academic activities, and then who will, to create the knowledge base that is needed to actually push forward this particular agenda.
Thank you very much, and we thank also BMBF. Thank you, Dr. Christophe Rovelkamp, for the perspectives and all the support with regard to this program, and also on the capacity building one. And we are so grateful. I would like to thank all the speakers. We are running out of time now. And I would like to just summarize what we said here this afternoon. We were asking ourselves at the beginning, is that true that green hydrogen can be a game changer in terms of economic development of West Africa? And I think the answer here is clearly yes. In terms of scientific assessment point of view, it has been assessed technologically, environmentally, and socioeconomically, and it has been proved by a scientist through the atlas that yes, we have huge potential, and we have also the political will in the region. And through ECREEE, a strategy has been formed, developed, and then shared, discussed, and stakeholders are engaged to so that together we can make sure that we be part of this great momentum and develop green hydrogen economy in West Africa. I would like to thank you all for your patience. Thank you for your contributions, and I thank all the audience. Thank you for the questions also that allow us to interact with all of you. Some of them, of these questions are still remaining. We'll try to answer to them and make sure that you get the feedback from us. Thank you, moderator, for the opportunity again. Thanks all. Back to you.
Sorry, you are muted.
Okay.
Zorel, we cannot hear you. Zorel, we can't hear you. Yeah, check your mic if it is not on mute. Okay.
Yeah. Hear me now? Hello. Do you hear me now?
Yeah, now you can hear.
Good, thank you. So we would like to thank all the participants of this panel for providing us such an interesting discussion and bringing different contributions and different perspectives into this important topic of green hydrogen and the ECOWAS Green Hydrogen Strategy Framework. We will now observe a 10-minute break, and when we get back, we will continue with the session 2 under the theme Technological and Financial Innovations for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Scale Up in the ECOWAS region. We're looking forward to seeing you in the next session, and we will resume at 2:30 as the next panelists are getting back. Thank you. First of all, please accept our apologies for this delay in resuming. We will continue now by introducing the session 2 under the theme Technological and Financial Innovations for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Scale Up in the ECOWAS region. I have the pleasure to introduce you to the moderator, Mr. Alois Malanga. Mr. Malanga is the Chief of Climate Technology Innovation Division in the Department of Energy at the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. He has over 20 years of experience in the sustainable energy and climate change field and is passionate about the role of innovation and entrepreneurship in climate action and the energy transition. He was responsible for flagship programs in UNIDO, such as the establishment of the Regional Centers for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency in the ECOWAS and SADC regions, and the Global Clean Tech Innovation Program. Before joining UNIDO, Mr. Malanga was a renewable energy expert at the African Development Bank, managing investments in sustainable energy across the continent. Before that, he was the principal sustainable energy expert at the Southern Center for Energy and Environment and the lecturer at the University of Zimbabwe. Now, we kindly ask all the speakers to open their video while they speak, and also please ensure that you unmute your microphone before you speak. Mr. Malanga, you have the floor for the next 75 minutes. Your attention, please.
Thank you, Jarel, and good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, colleagues. I am quite excited and honored to be chairing this session. By way of introduction, my name is Alois Mtlanga, and I think the bio that was given by Jarel is quite precise. I'm quite excited to be chairing this conversation on technological and financial innovation for renewable energy and energy efficiency scale up in ECOWAS region because of a couple of reasons. I work in UNIDO. We are the UN agency that is mandated to promote and accelerate inclusive and sustainable industrial development. And industrial development happens when we can create companies. And if we can create companies and scale up companies in the renewable energy and energy efficient space, those are the companies that are going to be able to create new and green jobs. Those are the companies that are going to be pushing the deployment of renewable energy technologies for productive uses across the economic sectors in ECOWAS region. It is for this reason that our work in UNIDO around this is premised on the development, scale up, and commercialization of innovation and helping projects and programs in renewable energy, energy efficiency, and climate to access financing. Some of our projects include the Global Clean Technology Innovation Program, where we are running accelerators and incubators across 20 countries. And this program is focused as two pillars. The first pillar is on helping companies in the climate and clean energy space to be able to transform their businesses into fast-growing, scalable, and investable companies. And it is also running in Nigeria and in Senegal in West Africa. The second pillar is about developing, connecting, and improving ecosystems, the environment around this company so that they can access finance, they can access technical assistance for them to commercialize, but to do this on a continuous basis. We also host the Climate Technology Centers Network, where we provide technical assistance to governments upon request on issues around renewable energy, energy efficiency, and various other sectors. One of our programs is the Private Finance Advisory Network that recognizes the fact that at the moment we have an oversupply of money that is looking for projects. But on the other end, we have projects that are looking for money. So there must be some disconnect happening in the market. So we run the Private Finance Advisory Network with the view to help projects and programs in energy and climate change in developing and emerging economies, to help them to develop their business plans, their financial models until they can access funding. It is for this reason that through this program, we have been able to mobilize around $2 billion of private finance investment into clean energy and climate change projects and programs. It is against this background that I'm quite honored to chair this session, because we want to, at the end of this session, if we are to satisfy the organizers of this session, we want to look at technological and financial innovations in renewable energy and energy efficiency scale up in ECOWAS region. Before I invite the speakers, let me take the opportunity to express my appreciation to the ECOWAS, to ECREEE, to the executive director and the whole team at ECREEE for inviting us to this session. My role is to just facilitate the exchange for this discussion. feel free to join us in this conversation through the chat, the chat, to send us questions directly to me or to the panelists so that I can enrich this conversation so that we can also be able to respond to some of the questions that we have within your country, but also at a regional level. Let me invite the panelists that the panelists on this session to this session, but to take the podium, but to first of all to introduce themselves. At least I get to know how to pronounce their names. Otherwise, I don't want to run foul with names. And if they can share with us the work they are doing in their organization, in companies, with regards to promoting technological and financial innovation for renewable energy efficiency in the region. And then I'll be more than happy to to pose follow-up questions to the panelists. To begin with, let me invite Johan. Johan, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Alois. Thank you, and very happy to be here with my fellow guests. Thank you for the invitation. So my name is Johan Lefol. I'm sales manager at West and Central Africa at Victron Energy. We are a Dutch manufacturer specialized in quality components for battery-based energy systems. We produce inverters, battery inverters, solar chargers, and batteries and monitoring systems. And these components are widely used in West Africa in many different applications, such as solar home systems, mini grids, or backup systems. And we rely on a very wide range of, or very wide network of distributors that are present in almost all countries in West Africa. So that's in short what I can say about Victron Energy, and very happy to say more about our involvement in the renewable energy transition in West Africa with you today.
Thank you, Johan, for this brief presentation. May I kindly invite you to share with us more details about your operations, specifically in West Africa? And as someone who's coming from the UN industry, we are keen on how can countries in ECOWAS be part of your manufacturing supply chain? When are you going to be manufacturing from ECOWAS? What kind of partnership do you need for you to be able to start manufacturing or even assembling some of the excellent equipment that you are producing in ECOWAS region?
Yeah, sure. Maybe first I can say a bit on how we try to be part of this transition in West Africa. And I think the key of this transition is to build reliable systems that can be easily financed and that are bankable. And for that, I think a key for manufacturers is to provide quality products and quality services. And saying that, it also means that the whole, let's say, pool of people and technicians working on solutions also have to be able to install correctly mini grids or solar home systems. And that's the reason why we spent a lot of effort with strong determination to actually provide trainings to a lot of installers in West Africa. And so we do a lot of workshops with the hands-on training. We are very involved locally with all the professionals. And I think that's already a first step before going to manufacturing locally, to share these skills and to build capacity on commissioning and installation. Then that said, I think there is also another step before manufacturing, which is sort of assembling, and it's also related to training. You see, like in mini grid projects nowadays, you see more and more like containerized solutions where you have the whole inverters and batteries and storage combined in a container, and probably too often these containers are built and assembled not in West Africa, and that's, I think, is a value that is lost locally. And we try a lot to train the installers and to give them the keys so they can actually make those solutions locally instead of importing them. And I think already that not in the manufacturing as such, but in the assembling of products together to make a solution, there is more that can be done locally. And then, of course, the next step would be to manufacture the products locally. And that's very challenging, I would say, from a manufacturer, because it's, manufacturing a product is not only about one single factory that manufacture this product. It's a whole environment with a lot of suppliers that would supply different components that in the end make it possible to make one final product. It's a lot of skills that needs to be available locally. I mean, in terms of more workmanship, qualified professional that can be hired, but it's also a larger environment. If you have a factory, you need stable power, you need the right tax framework. I can tell you that as for Victron, where we manufacture our products, which is actually India, we manufacture those products in 3 zones. So let's say that we would be keen to manufacture in West Africa. And I think progress is made, and we see it, but we need a stable and reliable environment with a lot of tools and skills available locally to do that. But I think it will become a key, actually, to enable this renewable energy transition in West Africa.
Thank you, Johan. And we also have policymakers that are listening to this conversation. So, and you have, in a very precise and concise way, tell them the homework that they have to work on for them to be able to attract companies like yourself to be part of this energy transition, and also to create jobs, because let's remember, policymakers are political animals. They are looking for votes, and they also have to create jobs for the youth and the youth dividend that we have in the region. Thank you, Johan. I'll come to the, I'll revisit some of the questions that I've shared with you now. Next on the panel is Chafi. Are you online? Please, you have the floor. Tell us about, introduce yourself, about the work that you are doing and how we are contributing to the energy transition in West Africa. Please go ahead.
Bonsoir à tous.
Okay, yes, allez-y, merci bien.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, please?
Oui, allez-y.
Okay, I think my network is not stable, so I'm going to switch off the video. Okay, je suis Sani Loliado Chafi, je suis un jeune entrepreneur nigérien. Je suis le promoteur de l'entreprise ECREEE Énergie, une entreprise spécialisée dans l'innovation sociale qui propose des solutions innovantes à la population rurale. Donc, avant de me focaliser sur la question en tant que telle, on va parler de l'innovation pour la population rurale. Surtout au Niger, qui est un pays sahélien où la population pratiquement vit dans une situation de manque d'électricité, qui est à peu près 15% de cette population a accès à une source d'énergie, vivent dans une situation très précaire. Parce que en fait, l'électricité est devenue une priorité pour la survie de cette population, parce que l'électricité intervient à la fois dans la santé, dans l'éducation et même dans le développement des activités socio-économiques, surtout dans l'agriculture qui est une activité de base pour cette population rurale. Donc, en tant que jeune entrepreneur, on s'est dit, bon, en fait, il y a un gap qu'il faut combler. Le gap, c'est d'abord le besoin de cette population rurale qui était assez élevé et qui n'est pas proportionnel à l'évolution mondiale. C'est-à-dire, le monde actuel est en train de vivre une situation où l'électricité est une priorité, mais cette population n'arrive pas à accéder en fait à ces opportunités. Donc, en tant qu'entrepreneur, en tant que jeune innovateur, on se dit, ben, c'est là qu'il faut intervenir pour trouver une solution à ce problème de cette population. Donc, en ce moment, on s'est posé la question, on s'est remis en question, on est allé vers cette population rurale vouloir leur proposer une solution innovante, c'est-à-dire une solution pour pallier au problème d'électricité en proposant des kits d'éclairage initialement. Et en plus, on est passé de ces kits, on est allé proposer des solutions médicales pour subvenir à leurs besoins, parce que même les centres hospitaliers ont des problèmes d'électrification en milieu rural. Donc, on s'est rendu compte qu'en réalité, cette population n'a pas en fait ce besoin qu'on le pensait, parce que même si on leur propose des solutions innovantes, ils n'arrivent pas en fait à les utiliser comme il le faut. Manque de moyens financiers et surtout manque, surtout si on s'arrête au niveau des moyens financiers, parce que cette population arrive à survivre avec une situation d'$1 par jour. Du coup, c'est un peu compliqué pour eux d'acquérir ces moyens. Donc, on s'est remis en question une deuxième fois. On s'est dit, bon, il faudrait trouver encore une solution pour pouvoir résoudre ce problème. C'est là qu'on a adopté encore nos kits à des petits composants qui les permettraient de faire d'autres activités génératrices de revenus. Par exemple, on les a proposé un chariot solaire ambulant qui permet en fait de pouvoir vendre des produits et en même temps de pouvoir utiliser de l'éclairage à travers le système solaire et les batteries de stockage d'énergie. Donc, on est à ce niveau et on est en train de travailler sur le projet. Après, on s'est confronté à un autre problème qui était le problème de l'accessibilité en fait de ces produits. Donc, le produit était assez élevé en termes de coût. Il fallait trouver une solution pour subvenir à ce problème. Donc, mon équipe et moi, nous avons réfléchi pour adopter en fait une stratégie d'acquisition des produits à travers les partenaires comme les institutions de microcrédit qui permettent d'accéder à ces crédits à des coûts assez acceptables ou bien à crédit. J'espère que les gens me suivent.
Merci, Chafi. Mais je vais parler en anglais. May you talk to us?
I feel like people are not following me.
Okay. May you talk to us on the challenges that you had in moving from an innovation into a product that you can sell? Yes, the challenges that you faced in transforming your innovation to say this is something unique and relevant to the context in your country into a product that you can sell.
Yeah, first of all, I think the challenges is coming from the rural population. Okay, because these are our clients, so they don't have enough resources to buy our product. So that's the first challenge. We need to change our strategies to adapt our challenge to their needs. So that's why we try to sign a contract with some a bank who will help them to get our products. That's the first challenge, and we try to solve that challenge. The second challenge is we ourselves, we don't have enough resources to more huge production of our products. So we decided to research the product locally and develop the product outside of the Niger, outside like those developing countries like China and those countries. So the third challenge is, and for us, challenge is for us. So we need to, from intern to get solution for that challenges. So the third challenge is about having enough resources and get a chance for this population to get it. So we are thinking on making energy and entrepreneurship bank, which is specialized on energy entrepreneurship bank, to be like a runabout for this population who will get the product, and a runabout for those companies, those startups who are making innovation on this renewable energy. So I don't want to speak so much.
Thanks, Chafi. I hear the need for financing there, which can be put in two sort of categories. Financing for you as a company, but financing also for the communities to be able to buy your product. which is quite important because it will talk to the next session when we talk about financial innovation, when we bring in the financial gurus to the conversation. Merci bien, Shafia. Let me invite Olu from the name, I think is from Nigeria. Olu, may you introduce yourself and talk to us through about your innovation and how you are contributing to technology and financial innovation for renewable energy and energy efficiency scale up in ECOWAS region. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Aliot, for that warm introduction. It's nice being here. Thank you, Adebola, and everybody that organized this. My name is Olu, like Ali said, and I'm the CEO of Ready. And what we do at Ready is we build these very simple systems that allows people to access clean electricity on the go. So the Ready Cap, we build a Ready capsule. The Ready capsule are very easy to use devices that individuals and businesses in energy poor regions of Africa could rent to access electricity. Actually, what we are doing from the last speaker, talking about the limitation of the market when it comes to purchasing innovation, we actually ran into the same problem, but we actually innovate out of it. So our goal from the get-go was, for me personally, coming from Nigeria, spending more than the first 24 years of my life struggling with electricity access, I kind of know firsthand the impact of lack of access to electricity to a lot of people. And I know the fact that these same people that have this electricity challenge also struggle to buy expensive devices that could probably power some of their systems. So what we did at Ready was that we built these proprietary systems. So after building a proprietary system, which is a very simple, easy to move Ready capsules, we leverage on the hardware as a service model, which is a daily rental model for these people to access the electricity. What that allows is that it eliminates the upfront cost barrier associated with accessing clean electricity. Like I said, we've seen solar systems, a lot of microgrid. Majority of the limitations that we get from customers is saying that I can't afford to pay this upfront cost. So for us, we are sitting down looking at how do we innovate on the technology and on the business model side to allow these people to access the electricity, to allow them to access reliable electricity on the go. And that's what led to building the Ready capsule. The Ready capsule is a mobile device. You can move it around, you can use it on the go. It provides grid-like electricity, and it's just for less than 50 cents. So what happens is that anybody, irrespective of your socioeconomic background or irrespective of your economic situation, can access the Ready capsule on the go. So if you can buy food in a canteen, or you can buy Coke, or you can buy milk, you can access the Ready capsule. And what we do when it comes to distribution is to partner with corner stores. So that made it very available. So what that means is that for you to access electricity, all you just need to do is to walk to your corner store. And we know about these corner stores are well populated in African communities. So that makes it very, very easy. Although I'm gonna say, for getting to that part requires a lot of experimentation, a lot of failures, a lot of burning money, and it was quite painful getting to the point where we had to because we have to build a digital infrastructure that helps us to actually optimize the rental process. We basically have to build that from the ground up, and that's kind of a core software infrastructure that we need to build to be able to run our own model. I think, for us now, we're excited about the products, the results we are seeing in the market, but I'm going to say solving Africa's energy access problem and energy availability problem requires going back to the first principle and thinking from the first principle, which is looking at what are the challenges in the market and how can we solve it with complex, obviously looking at complex business model and technology. I have to say, one of the things we spend money on right now is due diligence, where we have to run a due diligence of every customer before you actually rent the capsule. And we do that once, but we have to pay. So technically we pay around 10 cents for every customer before you pay us a dime, just because we need to pay that money for us to onboard you on the system and do our due diligence to be sure that we are going to return the capsule and all. So it's for us it's very interesting, right?
Maybe some, may I invite colleagues who are panelists who to mute their mics if they're not contributing at the moment. Thank you, Olu. I'm quite excited, fascinated with your innovation. because you are competing with the generators.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And how you have brought in IoT to be able to have, and building on existing infrastructure of corner shops so that they are able then the clients are able then to access the capsule and pay you back. I wanted to ask a very particular question around this, because your innovation is around digitalization and energy. And in my question there is were you able to finance the technology development, the development of the technology? Who are the family, friends, and fools who invested in you for you to be able to transform this wild idea of yours into something that you can sell through the corner store? This is, I think, the challenge that a lot of countries in West Africa are facing, to say we have a lot of innovations, but without these family, friends and fools that invest in these early stage companies, they will never be able to become an enterprise. So who financed this wild ideas of yours, and what was the experience in that process? Thank you, all.
Yeah, thanks, Alice. I'm going to be very blunt here, and I'm going to be very, very truthful. There was no family and friends that funded our innovation. So I came from a very middle class background. My mom earned probably less than $200 every month. She worked for the Oyo State government in Nigeria, and she works for the Oyo State government in Nigeria. And what she does, I got a scholarship to the University of Toronto, and when I was at the University of Toronto, I was on the scholarship. I get funding from just being on the scholarship. So what I did was, to start Ready Capsule, I actually took money from that scholarship. So I took money from my own upkeep money to actually fund to build our first prototype and pay through innovating, building our first MVP. When we build our first MVP, that automatically unlocked some kind of capital, patient capital. We got some funding from Cisco, got from something from our IEEE. But I think what happens, especially for African entrepreneur, is that you need to painfully take that first step for people to believe in you. You can't, for me, I have to invest $15,000 in doing a patent. That $15,000 was basically my old money. $15,000 is a lot to me. So I have to invest that money, pay people to build the first prototype before we get to the level. What I observe is that the more we are able to de-risk the market, and the more we are able to open doors, the more we are able to show that there's some validation in what we are doing, we see that automatically unlocks more capital. So that's what I've seen based on our projection. We started in 2018 when I was in U of T as a student. I used a lot of University of Toronto, 3D materials, laboratory, and all those kind of stuff. So all those kind of not core cash capital, but all those other capital kind of helped. And I think what also helped me when it comes to capital was a lot of human capital. I luckily have a lot of extremely smart friends. So all of them, some of them chipped in into helping, contributing in their own unique ways, just keep the stuff going. So it was just patching up a lot of stuff to get to that point where you can present something to the public, and that automatically just unlocks more capital.
Excellent. Thank you all. I think we are having a lot of feedback on your presentation, and a lot of listeners are quite excited. And also you have talked to policymakers, to financiers on the challenges that entrepreneurs, innovators in West Africa face, even if they have a technology that have a potential for transformation like yours, which can compete with generators, can ensure that people have access to energy, on how to transform that innovation into an enterprise that has some cash flow. Let me, thank you so much. We'll come back to you, in a short while. Let me take the opportunity to introduce my sister, Enam, to come in and introduce herself, and most importantly, to talk to us on how her work at ECREE is contributing towards technological and financial innovations for renewable energy and energy efficiency scale up in the ECOWAS region. My sister, thank you.
Thank you so very much, Alias, for your very warm welcome and introduction. So my name is Enam Akwete. I work for the IREC Foundation. What the IREC Foundation does is that it is an attribute creditor or attribute registrar. So globally, we have emission attribute certificates that have to be registered and have to be validated. And when that is validated, what companies can do is that they're able to say that I'm buying electricity from a renewable energy source. And because they're buying electricity from a renewable energy source, they can use that for their scope 2 emission calculations. They can use that for their CDP compliance, and they can use that for so many standards that, within the corporate world in RE100 are using to be able to demonstrate that actually they're buying from renewable energy sources. So my role really is to help African countries, especially within the ECOWAS sub-region and Central Africa, to number one, register their countries as countries that can issue these certificates, develop the market so that market operators like Olu, like Yohan, can plug in and to unlock capital to be able to support their businesses to grow, and also really to inject a lot more alternative finance into our region. I know that, since 2005, a lot of African countries signed up onto Kyoto, but we really haven't gained the dividends. And we are the continent that suffers most. We have not, really, yes, we've developed capacity, but we have not, for some reason, some odd reason, unlocked the commercial awareness that would link our market to the market that would unlock the capital so that we can develop our economies or to transition into low carbon growth. So really my role is to really support that happen within the renewable energy market. Thank you.
Medasi Enam, is that correct? How we are?
You're very correct.
Okay. Thank you so much for your, for sharing your introduction with us. Let me come back to you and say, you said lack of awareness, and as somebody who worked on CDM, emission trading in the 1990s when we were still young and the like, I'm disappointed that we haven't been able to leverage this market. And how do you, how do you talk to, to a company like Olu to say the carbon emissions, is actually a potential cash cow for you, because these guys are looking for money. Here we are. They're saying nobody's investing in us. And please go ahead.
So I think for us, yes, the knowledge is there, but the focus really, in my interaction working in this field since 2004, is that we've really been focused on the compliance markets. We've been, so if you engage with policymakers, everybody is thinking CDM. Nobody has any awareness that there's a huge voluntary market out there. And when you engage them, that actually there are other ways, you can engage, you can access the voluntary market, and you can do so much more. They're very hesitant. And I suppose there are two ways. It's either there's a lack of urgency within our region, and by urgency, you look at China, you look at India, and the appetite that they have in having to really engage with climate change, really engage with the carbon markets, the aggression, maybe that's the right word, the aggression with which they've attacked it is not what we have found or have experienced in Africa. And when you're engaging with people like Olu, sometimes there's a lot of hesitance, and they're like, but I don't have money. How do I pay for the services of a consultant to be able to support me access this market? Can it be done for free? And as Olu knows, there isn't any free lunch. You need to be able to lock in some money. And whilst you lock in some money, then you can recreate money. What I've also found is that sometimes our policymakers are in a hurry to enact policy. And in enacting policy, what they then do is to take the markets that would allow the carbon markets to thrive away. And I'll give you an example. In between 2008, 2010, I was developing a large scale energy project to replace inefficient LNG light bulbs in Ghana with efficient light bulbs. Now, we had secured we had, had engagements with Philips Lighting. Philips Lighting was going to provide the technology. We were going to have 20,000 light bulbs. We were going to provide 20,000 hours to our communities. And then what did we have? We had, secured funding, 5 million project funding, pre-financing, which was really rare at the time. And then what happened? Ghana suddenly announced that they had banned inefficient light bulbs. So all of a sudden, the potential to have given Ghanaians 20,000 hour lamps, that's just 10 million of them, that would have survived for 10 years was completely lost. What that happened, what the result of that is that, all the technology that would have been inbuilt as part of that process. So removing the lamps, recycling mercury that would have been in the CFL lamps that would have been installed, the technology to be able to identify the houses, because then, as many of you would know, in Africa, we don't have a really robust addressing system. And so what we were going to do is to create a geotagging system to be able to geotag the lamps to each house, each property where we had installed the lamps. All of that was lost because of one policy announcement. So it is really for our policymakers to really also understand, okay, if you're going to develop policy, is that policy going to take away a market opportunity? And if it's going to take away a market opportunity, then is it really wise? Or not even wise, is it prudent at that time to make that announcement? And it is about getting those mechanics right to be able to deliver that, I think would really be useful in our part of the world. Thank you.
Thank you, my sister, and I'm well said. I hear my bosses at ECREEE getting their homework right, that there is really a big opportunity to ensure that they support countries around developing policies that stimulate innovation and entrepreneurship, and be able to articulate the policy inconsistencies that could actually stand in the way of innovators and entrepreneurs. But most importantly, I get a project idea on how to set up in a technical assistance funds that helps to link ENAM to OLU to say, can we help, can we pay for ENAM services so that OLU would actually be able to claim these carbon credits. Those who are in the development work and our policymakers, this is a challenge that this is the cat that I'm throwing around for those who want to grab it. Please keep on sending us your questions and your suggestions to this session through the chat. Medas Enam, and let me take this opportunity now to go to the next panelist, Mr. Jeremiah Garho Sokan. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. Let me say, Excellency, distinguished participants and fellow panelists, good afternoon. I want to thank ECREEE for this opportunity for this event that is organized today. I'm happy to be here. My name is Jeremiah Gao-Sokan. I am the National Coordinator of the National Climate Change Secretariat in Liberia at the Environmental Protection Agency. The Climate Change Secretariat is a clearinghouse in Liberia on all climate change related activities. It brings together all of the ministers and we coordinate. It's a platform that coordinates all climate change activities, including policy making, as well as fundraising and discussing on how to meet our obligation on the climate change or climate action. Today on this panel, my role, I will intervene on leveraging climate financings to fund various renewable energy options in West Africa. Today, we are quite aware, it's an open secret to all of us that climate change is going to shape the way development is carried out, the way our economic growth and path are chosen. We are quite aware that now in our climate world today, that energy play a critical, if not a very key role, as well as in Africa. Energy is key to our economic growth. And so it brings energy front center of our conversation. So today, I will be looking at few how other financial sources that we can look at to be able to kind of fund our investment. Now, according to the topic that I'm looking at today, we look at financial innovation. Now, innovation, all of us know Claire's new idea, trying to solve the old issue, finding a new way to solve the old issue. Financial, we all know that's money. We're looking for money. And so how do we get the money? Today, in Africa, especially in West Africa, one of our key externalities, or one of the externalities we face, is not the lack of ideas and innovation, new idea, but many times great ideas don't see daylight because they do not have, they require financial and technical resources to be able to see the daylight and reach out and be able to create that kind of impact that is envisaged. So I listened to previous speakers from the gentleman from Niger, to even my distinguished colleague from Nigeria, and my sister who just spoke. You will see clearly that one of the key problems that West Africa is faced with is financial resources. May I let you know that the old ways of finding money to fund businesses or great ideas have changed tremendously. We move into what we call financial innovation, the innovation in the financial world because of climate change. So the way you probably used to go to your financial institution, your people who give you money, aunt, pops, and all of that, if they cannot afford, there are a lot of opportunities out there that you can probably try to figure out how to tap into them. And let me say clearly, I have the opportunity in Liberia over the last 6 years. And because I know that in Africa and in West Africa, the problem is finding money. So I made it my responsibility as a financial trained person. I made it my responsibility to focus on the finding money, how to find money. And one of the areas that I spend my time and continue to spend my time on is climate finance. Let me announce that I am currently the board member of the least developed countries with the Green Climate Fund. For the last 4 years now, I've been on the board, and we have seen. So climate finance, and if I want to leave something with you, I can say that leverage climate finance to fund your initiative. Leverage climate finance to fund your initiative. Climate finance, as the world would say, climate change. Climate change is what today we know that the impact we are feeling from the greenhouse gas emission. So as a result, the whole world today come together to understand that we need to be able to do certain things. Energy sector is one of the key sectors that create a kind of high impact when it comes to climate change. And so there has been made, a considerable effort is being made by the whole global world to move from the old way of doing business in the energy sector to finding new ways of doing it. And there where it is a good opportunity for us in West Africa, who now inventing or finding ways to address not only our traditional development issue, but we can begin to bring in innovative technology and innovation in the energy sector. I want to let you know that there's good news for you today. I love few reports, but I will focus on few things to let you know the opportunity that are out there. Climate Policy Initiative, CPR, is an organization. It did one fine document, and that document title is the Landscape of Climate Finance, right? Landscape of Climate Finance in 2019-2020. That is the document. In that document, you will find out that in the period 2019-2020, it's about $632 billion of money that floated around the world in relating just to climate change. $632 billion United States dollar, that floated around the world. And let me inform you that those $632 billion that floated the world in that period, according to the document, you will find out that $334 billion of that money went to energy system. $334 billion of that money went to energy system, okay? And then $175 billion of that amount went to transportation system. So you will see, then the rest of it, you got water and waste, 22 billion. You have infrastructure, industry, 36 billion. Then you have cross-cutting sector and land use, 50 billion and 14 billion respectively. But the key point I want to draw your attention to is within the period of 2019 and 2020, right? 632 billion in climate finance float around the world. Of that money, 334 billion went into energy system. In other words, you have the opportunities out there. As long as climate change remains the focus of the world now, between now and 2030, according to the IPCC report, people are gravitating and the world is moving towards investing in all infrastructure. And so they look forward into energy, the new technology that you are coming up with. So in West Africa, we need to make sure that we tap into the flow of capital that is in the world. Other in that statistic, it will show that Africa, in fact, West Africa is taking little of that money. Most of that money is going to Asia and Latin America and then. And so we in Africa, in ECOWAS region, need to know there are a lot of opportunity. We don't have to struggle a lot. We need to tap into other areas. And I think there where we need to focus. We need to look at, I love one of my panelists who want to be talking now. You got to look at MDBs, the African Development Bank and other banks and other methods. You can look at the Green Climate Fund. You can look at the Climate Investment Fund. You can look at the Global Environment Facility Fund. You can look at, the Least Developed Country Fund. You can look at, there's so many mechanisms now that are emerging. Even you can look through bilaterals, your government to government, your multilateral mechanism. You can go into those areas and research, look at climate change, part of climate change, the role of climate change in technology financing, in energy financing, all of those activities. So I'm here to let you know that Africa needs to be able to move the Asia and Latin America to tap into the available resources out there to be able to put into place the regulations we need, the policies we need, the technology we need, the capacity we need, and the innovation, especially in research and development in the energy sector. We can look at it from the supplier side. We can look at it from the demand side. Again, that's the kind of opportunity. But again, we are here to be able to create this awareness, to let ECREEE and everybody know that there are a lot of opportunity out there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate your interventions. And in the next session, we saw that the GCF, released a paper or a working paper on climate entrepreneurship at the COP, which is accelerating and scaling up climate innovation, where they talk to how GCF plans to support innovation. And I think it will be something that we may want to discuss when we discuss financing, but also the question there is that most of the financing around renewable energy and energy efficiency is seen from a climate mitigation perspective. Yet we don't emit much at a global level. Is it not an opportunity for us to focus on the role of renewable energy and energy efficiency in adaptation so that we can take advantage of the area that we are quite strong in and focus on how we can unlock financing for our projects in renewable energy and energy efficiency? Let me take this opportunity to bridge to the premier financing institution in Africa, the African Development Bank, and invite my colleague Timothy to introduce yourself. What is the AFDB doing around accelerating innovation in renewable energy and energy efficiency in the ECOWAS region? Timothy, you have the floor. Sorry, we're a bit behind time, so I would I'll request that you make your intervention within the next 5 minutes. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Alios, thank you very much for that. And let me say thank you to colleagues on the line and fellow panelists, especially Jeremiah. We've known each other for a while now. And Alios, if you want brevity, I will be very, very short. You know me. Aidan can tell you that I am not a talk show person. I go with transactions. So I will give you your 3 minutes.
Please go ahead, say. I'm loyal. Yeah. I'm loyal. Go ahead, say.
But what we are doing is the right way. In fact, the forum that we are having currently is the right way for us all to brainstorm. But one thing that I will point out is that it shouldn't always stop at the brainstorming and the workshop and all that, because sometimes you get fatigued, just talking and not really, working. So from here, I would like us, to see how we could work together. AFDB is really privileged, and I appreciate the invitation for us to really discuss this. But I think it would be also very useful if UNIDO, ECREEE, AFDB, we've actually engaged other investors for one of the technologies that, if we are talking about technology that have local solutions, we've not really been touching on, is biogas. And that is one thing that I believe that when we talk about energy solution in Africa, we don't touch biogas. It's very unfortunate. We would like to talk about the wind. We would like to talk about the geothermal development. We like to talk about the solar, but we don't go to biogas a lot. But this is actually what addresses our waste management problems, our agricultural production problems, and then also our energy problem. So I don't have to sell people about the circular economy nature of it, but that is just for me to make my point. That is the reason why that is my focus for participating in this. So if I am not able to get any chance to do any intervention, at least I have achieved my aim. That from here we need to go into transactions. Now, in terms of technologies, I think if I could segue from what Jeremiah rightly pointed out, currently climate finance is like a niche, but it's actually becoming the mainstream. And there is no way that you could look at a technology that you will not really have climate finance as a strategy in it. And one of the ways that we try to advise developers is that look at the solution. Like my brother from Nigeria mentioned, you look at the solution, because innovation should go with solution. And if you look at solutions, there are a lot of technologies in Africa that are not really climate resilient, that are not low carbon. So how do you really bring in technology to address the solution? Because that is what is going to give you the climate rationale. Whether you're going to tap into GCF, whether you're going to tap into SAFE or JEF or any other climate finance, you need some form of climate rationale. So the solution that your technology is really going to address could be used as the basis for your climate rationale. And then you also look at the design itself. And there are a lot of money that goes into technology development. From the conceptualization, the testing, the development, the deployment, delivery, all that, there are a lot of money that goes into that. And if you are able to have a solution that is addressing a climate-specific problem, right, you are able to use that incremental cost as a leverage to tap into concessional finance. And that is something that is going to really optimize your the financial viability of your technology development. And certainly, it's also going to give you a much more cutting edge competitiveness, because you are doing something different compared to the other technologies that are standard and non-climate related. So this is one thing that I would like you to know. And I will say again that climate finance is becoming a mainstream. So don't look at your technology development in isolation from a lot of these investment instruments that could help you to really go ahead and pursue your dream in technology development. Thank you. Am I below 3 minutes?
Thank you, Timothy. You are below African 3 minutes, which is acceptable. Okay. Let me take this opportunity to invite my sister Enam to share with us on a very fast-forward basis. I love this innovation that she's talking about, carbon emissions on very fast-forward basis. My sister, I believe in your capability to talk to us through, this presentation in 3 to 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Right. So just like Alio said, I'm really going to fast forward through this. And so I'm going to let you do a lot of the reading, and I'm just going to clarify some points. So this presentation, as you can all read, is about alternative finance to support energy investment and energy security in our region. Okay, so what are energy attribute certificates? So you have sources, you have energy generated, you have end users of electricity, and then you have the user claims. Now, the user claim usually a large organization, corporates who have registered for all sorts of standards, who say they're using renewable energy in their production process. Now, how do we evidence that they're actually doing this? This is where the EAC comes through. So using our energy attribute system, we are able to use a standard to say, because you have bought a standardized and a certificate that has been vetted through all these schemes, we are able to say that the renewable energy, you're using 100% renewable in your operations because you've bought a renewable energy certificate that says you have done so. So although you are not technically using it, because another organization or somebody has consumed it, that production cycle is then able to be evidenced. And that is why how the certificate is generated. So how are these schemes there? So you have all these electricity sources. We know that we have the clean ones and we have the legacy fuels. And of course, you have the different user claims. So you can see where the traditional system is the coal, the nuclear, and the oil. And of course, the renewable that we all want people to a transition. So there is an exchange, okay? So those that are using the dirty fuels and those that are using the clean fuels. Now, in terms of globally, there are different standards, okay? The international REC standard is the one that is for Africa, for Asia, and for Latin America. So how is this market structured? You have the market players, who are electricity traders, market brokers, producers, and others. And then you have the participants, who are then who are also traders, market brokers, and individual end users. So individual end users would be your corporate, for instance, Pepsi or Coca-Cola or Amazon. And then you have the producers. So in our context, we have a lot of producers. And also you would find that within our regions, you have companies who are multinationals, who would have to buy energy certificates to prove that they are using renewable energy in their operations. And I'm going to skip through all of this. So who uses ESCs and what are the various ways to buy them? Okay, so there are more than 8,000 companies who use them. They report to CDP. CDP is the Carbon Disclosure Project. It's been around for a very long time. Okay, there are also the Greenhouse Gas Protocol Scope 2 reporting. Now I do some work for an organization in Ghana, an energy generation in Ghana, who is working towards achieving the Scope 2. So they track their energy usage. And in tracking their energy usage, you're able to say that we are using 100% renewable in our projects. And also, as you do this, you document this. As you document this, you show evidence using your certificate to show that this is how I have reported, this is how I have verified the use of my my energy usage within my organization. This is how I have monitored it, and this is how I'm reporting it, and reporting it to meet my commitments towards achieving either the RE100 standard, the CDP standard, or the Greenhouse Gas Protocol standard. This is the energy certificate that I can demonstrate to use to show that I've actually bought renewable energy. So you can see there's a flash of different organizations, all these brands, some of them we know, some of them are local to our countries, who are all, who have subscribed to these standards. They use them as part of their environment, social, and governance reporting. And so they need to report on these. And the idea is that if you, a country in West Africa is able to sell their renewable energy certificates to them, then they organize the country benefits. So rather than buying RECs from somewhere else, say from Asia, we can now sell RECs or IRECs from Ghana, from Nigeria, and therefore it means that our region benefits. So what is the picture in Africa? So you can see globally how the picture looks like, and you can see where there is some movement within our continent. It is, 54 countries, and yet there are very few countries that are registered on any of these standards. I mean, the standard for our continent is the international IREC standard, which I represent. Now, how many of these ESCs have been sold or issued over 6 years? And I'm not going to say the number because you can all read what the number is. And how many of them have been redeemed? About half have been redeemed, which means that these have been sold. Now, if you see Tesla, everybody is really crazy about Tesla. How is Tesla's, financing structured with? Tesla makes a lot of money by selling RECs and not really in selling cars. And I'm sure a lot of us are really surprised by that. If Tesla was really just selling cars, it would be in the red. But because Tesla sells the energy attributes in the batteries that its car generates, they're able to then sell off these credits to other car manufacturers. And as a result of that, they are always in the black and not in the red, as you can clearly see. If you look at India, India has very similar socioeconomic dynamics as Africa, very similar population profile. And yet they've also really taken this by the bull by the horn. And as of 2021, the RECs that India has sold is in the region of nearly $2 billion. Now, if you look at our population, 80% of our population lack access to electricity. In Nigeria alone, 14 gigawatts of electricity generated by diesel and 4 by the grid. So like I said before, only 3 out of 15 West African countries are registered. Even in terms of this, there is no company, there is no registration, issuance of any of these certificates. So although we have actually registered, there isn't any activity in terms of issuing any certificates. The question is why? And I'll come to that. It's a lot of regulatory bottlenecks. And the question is, do we really need this at this time? And I'm not going to go through this because we all know the terms in terms of generating capacity that our countries have. Mm-hmm. So what are the opportunities for West and Central Africa? Okay, if we trade IREX, it leads to additional income for renewable energy, for installations in the region. So if you look at all the large hydros across the region, they can all benefit from IREX. They can all issue IREX. If you look at the micro hydros, they can do the same. If you look at companies like Ready, which I'm really excited about, what we can do is to either aggregate all the energy that Ready is generating and then issue that as an IREX, because then of course we do the back end where we're able to validate in a robust way that Ready's energy that has been created has actually been consumed. And in doing that, we are able to evidence that, and then a certificate is created, and then that is done. It's an alternative finance source to catalyze investments in renewables. We have a lot of multinationals who do a lot of regional operations, but then they export this funding elsewhere. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. So is my 5 minutes done?
My sister, I mean, thank you so much. Quite appreciated. We have 10 minutes left, colleagues, okay, for this session. I am really excited with the conversation that we have had. And what I would want to do is to give the opportunity to Johan, to Chafi, and to Olu to say, give us in 1 minute each, what kind of financing do you think we should challenge everybody around this table to be able to support your enterprise, your projects to scale up? What kind of financing do you require? Because we have a representative from the GCF on board. We have the premier financing institution on Africa on board. Please tell us your issues. What kind of financing do you require for you to be able to scale up and to develop, commercialize and scale up your interventions, and talk around not only you, but other entrepreneurs, other innovators that are in the ecosystem that you are aware of. What kind of financing and at what stage of financing, what kind of financing do you want, and what stage is your business? And so that we can then pose these questions to the financiers, to the big banks who have big pockets. May I start with Johan?
Yeah, thank you, Alois. It's a great discussion today. Thank you for the question as well. So I think what I would like to say is that on a technical point of view about renewable energy transition, we know how to do. We also know what's a favorable regulation for energy access and renewable energy in West Africa. There have been many initiatives on that. We know what's the way to go. I think now the main issue, and it's not about us as a manufacturer, we know where to get the money, but it's about all the SMEs that are involved in renewable energy in Africa. We see it by our own eyes. Our customers are distributors and small solar companies everywhere in West Africa, and access to finance to these small and medium companies is really hard because you need a lot of skills, you need a lot of time. And you need to have access to ticket size that are not 5 million. You don't need that amount of money, you need less, and these ticket sizes are not so available, and they are not available at all. And commercial banks are not playing their game either. So I think if you want to see renewable energy thrive in West Africa, you have to provide the right financing tools for small and medium companies, because they are the core of this sector. And yeah, that would be my message here.
Thanks so much, Johan. I mean, I would invite Jeremiah and Timothy to respond to this after all of them. And also, if my sister Enam would want to jump in, please, after we hear from the three gentlemen. Olu, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Johan, Johan has actually been able to touch on some of the points I'm going to raise. But something I'm going to add to it is that we also need a lot of patient capital. And when I say patient capital, I mean some of these are very, very complex problems. The challenge is not the fact that technology doesn't exist, but some of these problems need a lot of patience to develop. Like Enam was saying, I did sustainable engineering in sustainability engineering in U of T, and we wrote 2 papers actually to measure the emissions that our capsule offset. So we have those papers published, but it took us roughly 6 months to work on those papers. And this is me understanding the value that I can explore from these. But because I have the patience, I have some kind of capital that was backing me. That was why I was able to do that. An average guy in Lagos was just trying to even survive. So the challenge is that the worst part is that even some of the IDPs and some of the funding agencies, let's say USAID, and some of the companies that organizations that actually support entrepreneurs locally, give them very complex timeline. And that's what I've seen. I've seen when projects are supported, these projects are so choked with you have to achieve this, and that. So there's no flexibility to innovate. There's no patience to innovate, and people are just choked. So you see a lot of people they pump 100K into an intervention, and it just gush out what the guy drafted in his call for application. And most of these things actually change when you interact with customers, or when you interact with the people on the ground. So for me, I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs like myself that struggle to even explain what they are doing, or to explain what they are doing to some of these funding agencies, because there's technically no flexibility. I remember we were talking to an agency at the point, and they were marking us with a book. So if you said you're going to do this, do you do this? You said you're going to, but I'm not the market. The market changes. But we've seen, there's this kind of very, very boxed way of controlling, even when money are given for interventions, and they are not patient. There's no patience to take time to crack the model. For me, luckily I was I got some support from the university that made things a little bit move smoothly. But if I didn't get that support, I'll probably choked, and I would have lost a lot of new inventions, new innovations that we're able to crack, given we just been patient enough to wait and just explore deeply. And so, I think patient capital is very important, especially for us to actually unlock a lot of complex innovation in Africa. I can tell you this space is very, very complex. For us in Ready, we built new tech infrastructure based on our patience. If we had rushed for 6 months, we won't be able to crack some of those new markets. So for the regulators here, please be patient with us. We are trying to solve a very complex problem that sometimes we don't understand. You can't put the timeline on it, but just be patient with us. I think patience is very important. Thank you.
My brother, patient capital, and the question there is venture capital the right model to support kind of early growth and growth stage companies like yours? The question is open, but let me invite Chafi to come in here. And what are your financing needs to grow and scale up your business? Please, allez-y, vous avez la parole. Il est en ligne encore ou il a quitté déjà? I think he may have some connectivity challenges. And before I give the floor to Jeremiah and Timothy, I wanted to do a bit of politics. So far, Africa has raised $4 billion in startups in 2021. In Nigeria is the biggest, #1, which is over $100 million. I think Ghana with between 10 and 100 million US dollars. And the other countries between 1 and 10 million US dollars. What do we need? We need the guidance and support from the GCF and from African Development Bank to ensure that we start financing, the capital that is out there is channeled towards some of these innovative companies that are presented here. And also let me take the opportunity to appreciate the role of ECREEE in developing policies and stimulating an environment where entrepreneurs can grow. I think ECREEE has shown leadership by developing the ECOWAS policies on energy access with specific targets, and therefore provide a roadmap on how development partners, investors, governments can work together to achieve these targets. Perhaps the challenge there is we need also some kind of policies towards technological and financial innovation. But before I sort of insult my hosts by challenging them on this, let me go to Jeremiah and to Timothy to say we have heard the kind of financing that is required. If you look at the financing ecosystem in ECOWAS, how can we provide that kind of financing? A growth stage, patient capital that does not choke all that he has to pay back within 6 months. How do we provide financing to SMEs who are the drivers in terms of provision of services, but industrialization, but also creating jobs in communities? How do we use the climate rationale to ensure that we are able to provide financing at scale and pace that is acceptable to some of these early stage and growth stage companies? I leave it to Jeremiah and Timothy to lead us on this.
Thank you. Let me come in. Timothy is the greater expert in this business because he comes from Africa premier financial institutions. So I want him to be the last. Let me just try to come in quickly. I feel clearly from the distinguished colleagues that spoke, they are telling nothing but the truth, the reality. I lived in Liberia. I can consider to be the least of all the least developed countries. And the financial institution put together, right, in the private sector cannot and not able to provide up to $10 million to, in terms of loan or to fund, not an initiative. If they did, from the total financial institution in country, if they give you the $10 million, they are not able to wait after 3 years. That means the financial institution landscape, the ability, the amount of capital that is available in country itself is limited. And this is, first of all, it inhibits and it's a constraint. I don't know how to deal with that, but it's a serious constraint. The limited capital in West Africa and the condition on which those capital are given to entrepreneurs is very difficult to describe. You give somebody a loan and you expect them to pay back in 36 months, when even their research and their development and trial phase of even the venture is supposed to go somewhere around 5 years for them to understand. Already, it's a problem. You see, so that is the problem that is discouraging. That is the problem that even becomes a barrier to innovation itself, right? And even if people get it, not only the term of the loan, the time to pay back is so short. The interest on the capital is sometimes 3-4 times the original capital. These factors are not encouraging at all. And so, I mean, I just gave you an example of Liberia. Imagine you can't pour $10 million for 4 years to save, so if you have an initiative to mobilize that in country. So these are the kind of real condition under which we are living in Africa. So we could talk the biomass, we could talk all the, the alternative in the sources of renewable energy and all the great innovation, right? But all comes down to money for you to have the infrastructure, to have these people, the time for guys to turn around and try it and replicate the formula and correct some of the mistakes, the customer service, and keep the time so it's not there. You see? So that's where I continue to say, for us in West Africa, we have no choice but to take advantage of alternative sources that are out there. We need to bring them in through our national institutions. We need to bring the resources to capitalize our financial institution, like the case I gave you in Liberia. I encourage Development Investment Bank to move towards these funding that are available, some of which are very generous, right? Take, for example, in a GCF. If you go for a concessional loan for maybe 1% interest, maybe a grace period of 10 years or 15 years, just giving you numbers, right? If a financial institution be able to put an idea together and bring in maybe $1 billion in there, at least within that grace period, you can turn around and so many businesses, entrepreneurs will have access to that capital with some flexibility and they can pay back and so on and so forth. So I think what Africa needs is to wake up, to tap into the resources, the good way out there, find the avenue, like Timothy will be talking right now, find those avenues, work with the avenues, and be able to bring in money in. That would be the only way. Other than that, the good stories and the great ideas that distinguished colleagues talk about will continue to start for. And we'll continue to come back and be talking over and over. I mean, that's it. Whatever we do, we need money. And I think we can look. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Jeremiah. Time is up, but let me give Timothy the last word. As my president used to be married to a Ghanaian woman, he's my brother-in-law, so he gets the last word. And Timothy, there's also another question on, does the bank have large-scale biogas, industrial-scale biogas, or a mechanism to support large-scale biogas systems? But Timothy, what kind of finance and what can the bank do? In the link or in the chat, I've been sending some of the projects and programs that the GCF is planning to finance, especially around climate financing, around climate innovation. Please, my brother-in-law, you have the last word.
Okay, thank you very much, Alios. I think on the biogas, we can take it offline. Maybe you can send me information. And I just want to congratulate our developers, our innovators here, and also my sister NM who presented on the REX. And I was really fascinated to see her presentation, because one thing about REX is that once you have REX, you are able to build on it for a lot of several innovative financing. I remember when I was working in US, if you have REX, you can monetize renewable energy certificates as part of the investment itself. And then you are also able to build on with other financial arrangement like tax equity investment, master partnership flip, and other arrangement, which, for example, Kellogg's does not produce energy, but it could, with those partnership flips and renewable energy certificate arrangement, they could actually finance. And I hope that Africa will be able to bring in those innovative financing, here. So very, very excited to hear, and to, listening to that presentation. Now, one thing that I would like to say is that most of the information I will provide here is very generic. But if you really want to have a specific, solution to what you are, looking at, I am always open to assist, because I believe that that is what we need to do as Africans, to help each other. So you could shoot me an email, and we could do that. But on the generic side, I just want to share two things that we've been doing. One is that, for example, Olu, having its ready innovation, she's looking for financing. There are other financiers that will be looking for good innovation, good technologies. And one thing that we've been doing as African Development Bank is what we call the deal marketplace, where we bring the investors and the developers together to help them look at options and transactions and others. The second thing that we've been doing is to setting up financial products and services. And we are actually having a lot of initiative, Ghana as one. Rwanda is very, very advanced, and we are packaging all that to GCF, where we establish green investment facilities. And this green investment facilities, what it does is that, for example, Ready or Victron may not be able to come to AFDB because they don't have the solid balance sheet to really access AFDB financing. Or they don't have the scale, because for AFDB, at least you have to be at least 10 million, but she may be needing 3 million or 4 million. And Olu may be needing about 2 million. So this financial product and services, or this facility, is a way that we're able to consolidate all these little, medium scale, small scale. And we work with the bank so they are able to provide that financing at a very concessional rate, in a blend approach to really provide the financing. So those are the two key things that we've been doing from the African Development Bank in terms of financing these climate innovations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Timothy. And what is left for me, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, is first of all, appreciate our hosts for giving us this opportunity to share our experience, and really appreciate the panelists for for such an engaging conversation. I always love and I'm fascinated with talking to entrepreneurs, innovators, and financing institutions. We heard from an energy, someone who is manufacturing, people who are innovators and entrepreneurs are in the market. They are looking for financing. They are looking for support to help them to transform their innovations into businesses. They are looking for early stage, patient, non-dilutive capital that will help them to transform their innovations, to go to the market, to iterate, to learn and improve their product. We learn also about what GCF is doing in terms of various financing mechanisms. In the chat, I have provided links to some of the activities that GCF is planning to do, is already financing, but also is planning to do around how to support early stage climate innovators, climate in the renewable energy efficiency, but also adaptation space. I appreciate the inputs that came from Timothy on the role of our premier financing institution in Africa in terms of the deal marketplace, but also in terms of providing lines of credit to local financiers so that they can actually be able to on-lend to much more small scale kind of projects. From my side, on behalf of UNIDO, I really appreciate the time we were given by the colleagues from ECOWAS. My colleagues in Senegal and Nigeria, we are running the Global Clean Technology Innovation Program in these two countries, where in addition to provide support to companies, we also provide seed capital or early stage financing and provide investment brokerage services that we enable to ensure that the grant that we give you is going to be able to unlock financing from other financial service providers in the market. This is just a small sample of what we are doing, and I think we have a common challenge before us. ECREEE, the UN, our representative at the GCF, the African Development Bank, the entrepreneurs, the innovators, the private companies, and the banks, and my sister Enam to say, let's work together to ensure that we innovate around technology and around financing to ensure that we are in charge of this energy transition. It should create jobs. It should create enterprises. It should enable us to be in charge of our future. I thank you, and I hand over to the organizers. Thank you.
I would like to express our appreciation to the panelists and the moderator as well for their excellent contribution on this crucial theme of technological and financial innovations for sustainable energy upscale in our region. And with that, it marks the end of the day 2 of the ECOWAS Sustainable Energy Forum 2021. Tomorrow, the third and final day, we'll have more topics, more critical themes to discuss. The first one being the innovative business models for delivering energy as a service. And the second one, energy, water, and food, the winning nexus. We're looking forward to hosting those discussions. And I would like to conclude by once more thanking all the participants for their valuable contributions and everyone who has dignified us with their presence. We're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, 2 p.m. GMT. I wish you all a continuation of a great day. Thank you on behalf of ECREEE.